السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. حياكم الله. كيف حالكم؟ أهلا وسهلا ومرحبا. Hope everyone's doing well. Um, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. صلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أهلا وسهلا ومرحبا. I welcome you all to the second session of this program, the Arabic Made Easy program. Alhamdulillah. And today, Bismillah al-Kareem, we're going to continue from where we left off. Last lesson, we talked about the three categories of speech, and we also explained its importance and how it's quite astonishing that the Arabic language as a language, so many millions and millions of words, and that the Quran with so many words, that all of those words can be categorized into one of three categories. That is astonishing, and that's why we need to focus on it, because Alhamdulillah, if you focus on recognizing these three categories, then it's going to be much easier for you to process any word that you come across in Arabic. Why is it going to be easier to process? Very simple, because you know the boundaries of that word, you know what meaning it has, what meaning it conveys, you know what rulings it has, you know that what attributes it has. So it's very important. It's actually quite crucial. But of course, this will only become clear to you once we start looking at the language at the sentence level. Okay? It will only become clear to you when we look at the language at the sentence level, which inshallah ta'ala is what we're going to do today. Today we're going to take those words that we've learned, or those three categories, ismun wa fi'lun wa harf, nouns, verbs, and particles, and we're going to look at how they join forces and create sentences. And the more astonishing part, okay, so if you thought, yes, the three categories of speech were astonishing, let me tell you something even more astonishing, more amazing, is the fact that these words, they combine to create sentences, and the structure of those sentences return back to only four templates, if you like, or four arrangements, or four core sentence structures. Now that's crazy. So you have three categories of speech, and all the sentences you come across are going to have a core structure that numbers in total to be four. That's an amazing thing, and is a big claim to make as well. So I'm basically trying to say to you, this Quran with ayat, some ayat being one ayah is a page long. These ayat consist of many different sentences. So an ayah in the Quran, by the way, doesn't mean it's a sentence. It means most of the time an ayah is a paragraph. Okay, that has many sentences inside. What I'm trying to say to you is that all those sentences, you can take those sentences and put them in one of four buckets. That's if we look at the core. But the issue is that, how do you do that? How do you extract the core? How do you know what the structure of that sentence is? This is basically what grammar is about. So grammar is kind of like playing with Lego blocks. Let me ask you a question. If I give you four Lego blocks, there are four different colors. Okay? They're all the same size, but they're four different colors. Or maybe I'll give you four Lego blocks. No, not same size. Let's say I give you four Lego blocks that are of slightly different sizes and different colors. If you give that to someone, what can he do with it? He can create very complicated structures, right? With just four Lego blocks. That's basically how languages are, especially the Arabic language. We got three Lego blocks ismun, fi'lun, harf, right? And we can combine them together to make four, if you like, um, structures. And these four structures are the underlying structures of all sentences you come across. Type. So we're gonna talk about that. Before we talk about that, first and foremost, please support the channel by liking, subscribing, and commenting as well, especially at the end. I always forget to remind people. I only remember to remind them right at the end. But what causes me to remember right now is because the engagement lately has been very, very low, which in essence, it's not the end of the world, but there are many, many, many people out there that could benefit from this kind of program. Who, of course, me and you would agree, we would love you to recommend this course to them so that they can benefit, learn the language of the Quran, and hopefully that will open doors for them and keys to goodness. So if you want to be part of that and you want to have that sadaqatul jariyah, then why deprive yourself? Just hit the like button, the bell button, subscribe button, and just at the end of the lesson, just write one or two comments. If you want me to tell you what to write, I'll tell you what to write. Just write your biggest takeaway from the class. On a personal level, right? I don't know about you guys. On a personal level, whenever I go to a YouTube video with many views, before I waste my time, I check the comments. If I see that the comments are good and I see that the people mention what the video is about and what takeaways that resonated with them, I watch the video. Otherwise, if I see there are no comments, okay, unless the title is enticing or I actually need the video, if I see the comments being negative or pointing out things that are bad about the video, or just generally speaking, very bad engagement, sometimes I go to the next video, right? So I don't know about you guys, but of course, you want people to benefit from the khair, so please support in that endeavor. Now, last lesson, we gave a lot of love to nouns, special treatment. We talked about its attributes. So, unfortunately, verbs are complaining. They're saying this is discrimination. Why are you spending so much on nouns and you have not given me any attention? So, before we can go to today's topic where we talk about the sentence level, we have to be just to verbs and also talk about their attributes, mainly because verbs are an integral part of many, many sentences. And in many ways, verbs are much more fun to play with than nouns because verbs um, have a lot of intricacies to them. Okay, so that's what we're going to cover right now. Bismillah. All right. Okay, so first, well, today I do have my notes over here, but today we're going to spend most of the time looking at tons of tables that I've created for you guys, maybe almost 10 different tables, okay? But just to give you an overview of what we're going to talk about, first we're going to talk about the verbs, their attributes, and also the connection between verbs and personal pronouns. And we'll talk about personal pronouns as well. Personal pronouns, if you want me to give it to you in terms of when it comes to verbs, then they are the link between nouns and verbs. Okay, they're the link between noun and verbs, these pronouns. So we'll talk about them, inshallah. Then we're going to talk about simple sentence structures. Okay, one of the questions we're going to answer is what's the minimum requirement to make a grammatically complete sentence? All right. We'll answer that. And then we're going to talk about the four core sentence structures. And after that, we're going to talk about the difference between core and detail. We might not get time for that. If we don't, we'll cover it in the third session. But in essence, it comes down to the fact that the four core sentences are normally consist of 2 or 3 words. And probably by the time we get there, you're going to say, Ustad, why are sentences much longer than that? You can't tell me that Arabic sentences are only 3 words long. No, they're not. Some sentences are 10, 20, 30 words long. So what are those words, Ustad, if they're not part of the core? That's what we're going to answer, inshallah. And then finally, we're going to exercise. Now, I have a very good exercise for us, inshallah, at the end of the lesson, which is we're going to make some sentences. What else? What better way to implement what you've learned about simple sentence structures than actually making sentences yourself. So we're going to revisit the words of the Arabic of the vocabulary challenge. We're going to revisit them. I'm going to put them on the screen for you, and I'm going to say to you, there you go. I've given you the instructions. Now make us some sentences. And inshallah ta'ala, you will be amazed with what you'll be able to do after the end of this session. Because you could be, if you're a total beginner, which I think most of you are, it could be that you have absolutely no idea where to start when it comes to sentence structure, right? You don't know what to start, you don't know what words to use, you don't know how to what order to put them in. But inshallah ta'ala, at the end of today's class, that won't be the case. You'll be confident enough to start creating your first sentences. And of course, if you can create sentences, you can understand sentences. Understanding and comprehension is actually easier than expression and creation. طيب. All right. Bismillah. May Allah make it easy for me to be as concise as possible. If you see me going too slow or taking my time, please do remind me because we have so much content to cover. Bismillah. Okay, so this is the very first thing we want to talk about: verb attributes. Okay, see, just looks just like the table we had for nouns. Okay, so we have the attribute, we have the values, the possible values for that attribute, some examples, signs to look out for, and the term in Arabic. Okay, so the very first thing we need to talk about are verb types. Okay, verb types. Arabic has three types of verbs. Okay, we have the past tense verb, also called fi'l madi. Okay, and we also have a present tense verb. Okay, also known as fi'l mudari'. Fi'l mudari'. And we have a command tense. I can't really say tense, but let's say it's called an imperative verb. But I decided to use command because it's probably an easier word for you to remember. Okay, but technically speaking, they call it imperative. Basically, a word that tells you what to do, right? Um, which in Arabic we call fi'l amr. Now, if you look at this, you're going to say past tense, present tense, Ustad, where's the future tense? Well, that's why I said types of verbs. I didn't say tenses of verbs. But if you look at the books of grammar, they actually say that these kind of do represent the three tenses. Why? Because you have the past tense and the present tense, and the command tense is kind of the future tense. Why? Because if I tell you to sit down, when are you going to sit down? After I said it to you. So the command verb only ever happens in the future. Of course, there's a different way as well to just say something that's going to happen in the future. We'll talk about that later. It involves just adding a scene in front of the present tense verb, but that's not the topic of today. Today's topic is three types of verbs. And why do the Arabic grammar books specify these three types? It's because the way we build these three types is different. Okay? What do I mean by build? You're going to say, Ustad, what do you mean building? Enough of Legos. La, the Arabic language is a language which is known as Lughat al-Ishtiqaq, the language of derivation, the language whereby we derive words from root verbs or root words. So you actually have a root word, you take that word and then you add things to it, yes, to change it and give different meanings. That's a whole science in Arabic called sarf, Arabic morphology, which we'll study in more detail, inshallah, after this challenge is over. For those who are at a higher level, if you're not at that level yet to study morphology, then continue, inshallah, with lower levels and maybe learning Beni Dake and stuff, which we'll also teach, inshallah, from next week onwards. But if you're at higher levels, you learn more about this science. But for now, let me give you an example. We have the verb fa'ala. Okay, and normally they use this word as a template, as an example. It stands in for different verbs. So we just have the word fa'ala, which means to do. Okay, now fa'ala is past tense, and then present tense is yaf'alu. Fa'ala is past tense, and present tense is yaf'alu. Okay, so what's the difference between fa'ala and yaf'alu? Well, fa'ala is past tense, yaf'alu is present tense, but more importantly, we have created or derived yaf'alu from the past tense. So we always start with the past tense. So the past tense is normally going to be less letters, right? And we derive the present tense from the past tense, from this particular verb itself, fa'ala. We can take this and we can do everything with it. This is the base. This is what they call the root verb. So what we did is we added a ya at the beginning. You see, we added a ya at the beginning. That made it present tense. That's the difference between fa'ala and yaf'alu. We added a ya at the beginning. Again, now's not the time to go into detail exactly how we conjugate verbs and stuff, but this just to show you that the present tense is taken from the past tense. And then the command tense is taken from the present tense. Okay? Whereby we replace that ya with a hamzatul wasl, or with this alif. We replace the ya with this alif. So this is basically the signs for the three different types of verbs. If you want to know what tense it is or what type of verb it is, the past tense has no prefix. It has nothing added to the front of it. Okay, as opposed to the present tense and the command tense, which do, they have something added to the beginning. And it has a suffix. So when it comes to different conjugations of this verb, and we'll talk about conjugations later, as in showing you who did the verb, then we add it at the end of the verb. Okay, so the biggest difference between past tense and present tense is what? Is the fact that um, this one has a prefix. You know, this one has suffix. Let's get rid of this because a present tense has suffix as well. So let's get rid of that. Let's just say this is the main difference. Past tense has no prefix, hasn't anything added to the beginning of the verb, and present tense does. Okay, what does it have prefixed? A letter from a to. These four letters, one of these four letters, either a hamza or a noon or a ya or a ta. One of those four letters will come at the beginning of the verb. Okay, and the command tense starts with a hamzatul wasl. So it's prefixed by a hamzatul wasl if you like. Okay, so let me say prefixed instead. It starts with hamzatul wasl. Hamzatul wasl, for those of you that don't know what hamzatul wasl is, hamzatul wasl is basically an alif in normal Arabic writing. As far as the Quran is concerned, then hamzatul wasl has got this little squiggly sad on top, like something that looks like a sad. That's what we call hamzatul wasl, which is the brother of hamzatul qata, which is the normal hamza that you know. That's part of the alphabet. Okay, this hamza over here. This hamza. Okay, that's hamzatul qata. If this one comes at the beginning of the verb, most of the time, not always, it is a present tense. But if you see just an alif like this, or with a small sad squiggly line, then it's going to be a command tense for the most part. Not always, right? But these are general rules. There are other rules as well. But the best way by far to know the difference between past tense, present tense, and command tense is to practice verb conjugation. Okay? That's the best way. Is to just practice and practice and practice until you pick up the pattern. That's the best way. Otherwise, there are no specific rules that will ring true for every single verb. Because verbs themselves have like different different templates, right? There's one template. Fa'ala is one template, but there's almost another 10 templates in the Arabic language, okay? So that's why it's a bit difficult to give you a definite rule, okay? That's one thing. So the Arabic verb type, extremely important. Because every verb you come across is going to be one of these three. It's going to be one of these three. It's either going to be fi'l madi or fi'l mudari or fi'l amr. Okay, then we have another attribute that every single verb has. And remember, whenever we say attribute of something, it means all verbs have this in common. Yani every verb that you come across has to have one value from one of these. It has to tick one of these boxes. Okay, so every verb you come across, there is something called transitivity. Now, stop, don't run away. It's not that difficult. That's just the English word, right? I know it sounds extremely scary and what have you, but it's actually very simple. Think of the word transfer if you like, right? This verb, does it have an object? Does it affect someone else or something else? If the answer is yes, then we call that fi'l muta'addi is a transitive verb. If it doesn't affect someone else and it's just something that you do by yourself and it doesn't necessarily affect anyone else or anything else, it's called fi'l lazim, intransitive. Why is that important? Because when it comes to the sentence, those words or those verbs that affect something else, that need an object, if you don't mention it, then your sentence is incomplete. So let me give you an example. This is an example daraba, to hit. If I say to you, for example, Khalid hit, just like that, Khalid hit, you're going to have a question mark in your head. And there's going to be a gap there in information or in terms of the sentence. And you're going to ask me, you're going to say, who did he hit? Now, why are you asking me who Khalid hit? Because hitting, you hit something, right? You cannot hit, or it can't be said that you hit except if you hit something, right? Even may it be the air, you hit the air, it doesn't matter, but you have to hit something, right? Or attempt to hit something. That's what we call what? A transitive or fi'l muta'addi. If you guys want, we'll just stick with the Arabic terminology going forward. fi'l muta'addi. فعل متعدي يتعدى, it affects something else. And we also have something called فعل لازم, which is a verb that it doesn't affect anything else. Like, for example, traveling. I traveled. If I say to you, I traveled, okay, you traveled, great. You know, if you ask me, for example, where were you last week? I traveled. Okay. Now, of course, I can tell you what I traveled to, but even if I don't, the fact that I told you that I traveled is in of itself a complete sentence, and you have answered my question. Shukran lak. Right? But if you say to me what happened and I say to you Khalid hit, you're gonna say to me Khalid hit who? You haven't given me a complete sentence. So depending on the verb, depending on the verb, the sentence will either consist of uh, 3 words or 2 words, right? Okay. Why do I say 3 words or 2 words? 2 words because you have the verb and you have the person who did it. Khalid hit, right? Now, who did he hit? That's the third verb. When will you need it? If the verb needs an object. If it doesn't, then you say I travel, then that's enough. That sentence will only be made of 2 verbs, 2 words. However, one of the signs I put over here for um, the intransitive verb, or the verb which is mulazim, is that it can form a one-word complete sentence. But you're going to say to me, Ustad, didn't you say to me you can create 2 or 3 words? Yeah, what I mean by that is one word, as in the word that you see, right? Um, like this, safara, okay? Which is something that's going to bring us to the third point over here. Um, if you want, we'll cover that next. I do believe it's actually fairly important. Let's do this. Okay, all the colors are messed up now. All right, I'll just keep it for now like this. I'll fix it later. This brings us to this third point, which is the subject. Every verb has a subject, i.e., every verb has a doer. And this, of course, something that, alhamdulillah, as Muslims, we believe in, right? As a matter of fact, is one of the greatest signs of Allah's existence. Okay? This is our greatest proof against all atheists. If an atheist says to us, I don't believe in a God, I don't believe in a creator, we say to him, you're crazy. Why am I crazy? Well, if you don't believe in a creator, then you don't believe in creation. Why? How? Well, because there can't be any creation without the creator, right? Yeah, okay, I don't believe in creation. Okay, if you don't believe in creation, then where did you come from? You would. What are you then? Right? Did you just come into existence by yourself? Or like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Am khuliqu min ghayri shay'in am humul khaliqun? Were you created by nothing? Or you created yourself? Well, nothing doesn't exist. So nothing can't create you because nothing is nothing. Right? And you didn't create yourself, so there has to be a creator. The point I'm trying to make is this: every verb has a doer, it has a subject. In English, they call it subject. In Arabic, they call it fa'il. Fa'il, a doer, someone who did it. Okay? Every verb. Every verb. You cannot have a verb in the Arabic language as part of a sentence except that it has a fa'il. There are exceptions to that rule, but of course, like we said, Arabic grammar made easy. We don't talk about exceptions. In this series, I am sacrificing accuracy for simplicity. And I've told you that many times before. Okay, so if you've learned grammar before, you're going to say to me, Ustad, how about naib fa'il? I'm saying, calm down. That's not for this course. This course, we sacrifice accuracy, some level of accuracy for the sake of simplicity. So I'm not covering every single thing under the sun that that you should know about grammar. So for now, in terms of fa'il, every single verb has to have a fa'il or something that takes its place. All right. So having said that, this subject or this fa'il, it could be that it's mentioned in the sentence. It's there. You can see it. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's a pronoun. Okay, sometimes it's a pronoun, and this pronoun could be an implicit pronoun, as in it could be a pronoun that's hidden that is not really mentioned because it's understood. And this is something I've mentioned many times before. The Arabic language, if let me tell you something about the Arabic language. The Arabic language is a language whereby if it's possible to get rid of a word without affecting the meaning, it will do so. That's just how Arabic is. In other words, if there's anything that can easily be understood from context, then it's not there. It won't be mentioned because you already understand it. So, for example, the word yaf'alu, which means he did. Well, when I say to you he did in English, you're going to say to me, Ustad, you said two words. You said he did. But I can only see one word in Arabic. I can say yaf'alu. I say that to you because yaf'alu, the ya at the beginning, tells me it's he. It's kind of like a sign that's pointing and saying to me, you know what? This is a he, not a she. And it's not a they, and it's not a I, and it's not a we. It's a he that did it. So that pronoun is kind of hidden within the verb. It's implicit within the verb. All right. And this is a very central point that you need to know. Okay. So basically, that brings us to the point, which is that one of the signs of a verb being intransitive, that it doesn't need an object, is if you can just have a one word sentence, then it's most likely in fi'l lazim. If you say safara, safara means he traveled. Can you believe that this over here in front of you, safara, is a complete sentence? Can you believe that? Yes, it is. Because it means he traveled. Ustad, where is he? He is not mentioned, but is understood. واضح? Okay. I know this might sound a little bit complicated, Ustad, what you're talking about. I thought Arabic grammar made easy, blah, blah. But wallahi, there's some things I can't do without. Some things there's just no getting around. The fact that the Arabic language, there's a lot of things that are implicitly understood within the context and it's not really openly expressed. This is a fact that can't be hidden. Okay? This is something that is extremely special about the Arabic language, which is one of the reasons probably why, subhanAllah, Allah Ta'ala has sent us a book, a Quran, which has everything that we need. Like Allah says, Tibyanan li kulli shay, a clarification and a elucidation, clarification of everything. And even though that's the case, look at it. I can hold it in my hands. SubhanAllah, just imagine that, right? A great part of that is the conciseness of the Arabic language. And I don't think I'll be exaggerating if I said that if the Quran was translated to English properly, as in translated in a way whereby all of the meanings that the Arabic language has hidden within it are expressed, explicitly, then it would be multiple volumes. Multiple volumes. Then you're going to say to me, Ustad, but how come we got translations of the Quran that are multiple volumes? Because those translations are incomplete. They give you the bare minimum in terms of meaning. But if someone who knows the language were to sit down and try and extract all the meanings that are there just based on the language itself, then for each Arabic line, you can have another 10 English lines. But that is something that, of course, I can't prove to you at this point in time, but inshallah, we'll get there in the future. So what I mean by that is Arabic, there are sometimes things, if it's obvious, it's not mentioned. Safara, it's obvious that it's he. Why is it obvious that it's he? Because It is not safarat. It is not safaru. Because of the fact that it's safara, it means it's he. So this what I'm talking about right now, which is how to know the subject of a verb, which is the most important thing that you need to figure out. We're going to talk about that once we start talking about personal pronouns, inshallah. Okay, but for now, what you need to remember is that a verb can might need an object, maybe it doesn't. Then he has, in terms of case we talked about it when we talked about the nouns as well. It's just the harakat at the end. Okay, they're there for certain reasons. So you have yaf'alu, yaf'ala, and yaf'al. Yaf'al, majzoom. Majzoom is something specific to verb. Majroor is specific to nouns, which we did last time, and majzoom is specific to verbs. They probably sound the same thing to you, but it doesn't matter. That's not what we're talking about right now. So the sign for majzoom is sukun. Basically, no fatha, no kasra, no dhamma. That's a sign for majzoom, the main sign. Naam. So, and then we have subject. We mentioned subject already. The doer of the verb can be a noun, just like Sa'id, like Sa'idun safar, Sa'id traveled, right? Or safara Sa'idun, to be more precise, safara Sa'idun, which is basically a word that comes after the verb, number one, and it is marfu'. Marfu', we did that last time, is one of the attributes of a noun. In other words, it has dhamma. And remember, if we go back to the noun attributes, what did we say about dhamma? We said about dhamma over here, we said dhamma is mainly what? Mainly subject. So dhamma tells us that it's mainly the subject. It's the most important thing of the sentence. If a word has dhamma, you know that is important. Okay? So safara sa'idun, sa'idun being the person who actually did the verb, is a very important word. We can't do without this word in the sentence. That's why it has dhamma. Okay? And in Arabic, it's called ism zahir. Explicit noun. A noun that you can see, clear. Or it could be a dhamir, like a pronoun. That's most likely hidden. Now, if it's the first or second person, if you don't know what that is, we'll talk about it in a moment, then it's definitely going to be hidden. It's not going to be mentioned. And if it's not a first or second person, if it's third person, then it's going to be a pronoun if the noun has not explicitly been mentioned. So if there's no noun, you just have Safara, that's it. He hasn't said Sa'id or Khalid or whatever, then you know that the subject is a pronoun that is hidden within the verb. Okay? Now that pronoun is talking about someone. It refers to someone. And that's the thing about pronouns, which is the next thing we're going to talk about. Personal pronouns. Personal pronouns are very, very special. There's a list of personal pronouns. These are the most special words, one of the most special words in the Arabic language. Number one, because they're nouns. Nouns are more special than verbs. And number two, because they are the most important nouns, really. Most important noun types. Okay? Especially when it comes to trying to understand the language. When it comes to trying to comprehend the language, subhanallah, I cannot tell you how important it is that you figure out and you know your personal pronouns. Now, these personal pronouns, barakallah fikum, they are nouns. They are nouns, just like any other noun. They are nouns, just like any other noun. That's why they have the same attributes. Remember, when we talked about nouns, we said the noun can either be masculine or feminine, or it can either be first, second, or third person. Sorry, no, astaghfirullah, no. It can either be singular, dual, or plural. Remember that? We mentioned that last time. We said that a noun can either be singular, dual, or plural. All right, so if you go back to noun attributes, we said we have gender and number. These are the two most important attributes that every noun has. That's why the personal pronouns are categorized according to those two attributes. If it's either masculine or feminine, or singular, dual, or plural. Okay? However, personal pronouns, they bring something else to the table. Something extremely important. Okay? Something that other nouns they don't have. As a matter of fact, this is what makes personal pronouns such a special type of word. They bring to the table something called person. Person. Now, maybe you've never heard of this. Okay? Um, maybe you've never heard of this. person. What's person? And someone's asking, is this course really for beginners? Yes, it is. Just be a little bit patient because inshallah ta'ala towards the end of today's lesson, everything's gonna come together. Everything's gonna come together. Okay? For example, you might think to yourself, why start talking about transitive verb and intransitive verb all the time? What's the significance? Well, the significance is that based on which verb you have, you're gonna have a different template, a different core sentence. But trust me, just be a bit patient, it will come together, inshallah. Okay? Um yeah, anyone, level two, level three, I don't care if you're level 40. If you want to benefit, you can benefit. طيب, person basically, I'm going to try and give it to you in the most simple way as possible. And I'm sorry today I've not used WooClap yet. Okay, we'll come to WooClap when it's practice time because time is limited. I just want to get over this, get this over and done with. Let's talk about person. All right. Imagine a husband comes home, right, and says to his kids or says to his son, right, let's say his son is called Ibrahim, okay, and he walks in and he says, I missed Ibrahim. Huh? Imagine that. Or imagine he walks in and he says to his wife, I missed Ibrahim. What's Ibrahim going to say? What's Ibrahim going to say? Huh? Or imagine he walks in, yes, his name is Muhammad. He comes home, he walks in, he says, Muhammad is really tired. Huh? He walks home, he comes home and he says, Muhammad is really tired. What's the person going to think? Okay? Maybe it's a good time to start WooClap actually. We're gonna have to use WooClap anyway later on, especially later on because we need to practice. But let's get on to WooClap for now, just to get you guys engaged. I can also ask a few other questions as well, by the way. Bismillah. All right, the link is in the chat. All right, yeah. So the question was, what would their reaction be? What would their reaction be? So again, let me repeat. Father walks home, walks into the house, says to his kids or to his son, I missed Ibrahim, or whatever that kid's name is. Or he says to his wife, oh, I missed Ibrahim. And then he says, his name is Muhammad. He says, Muhammad is really tired. Okay. What is there anything wrong with that? If so, what's wrong with it? Okay. And then after he said Muhammad's really tired, he says, Muhammad's gonna go to sleep. Huh? Nah. All right. Someone said confused as you speaking about someone who isn't present. Well, how did you come to that conclusion? How did you come to the conclusion that I'm talking about someone else who's not present? Uh, where did that go? Yeah. Someone said confused as you're speaking to someone who isn't present. My question is, how did you come to that conclusion? Why does it keep on kicking me out of Blue Club? SubhanAllah. For some reason, it's just leaving all the time. How did you come to that conclusion? Missing of pronouns. Yes, so this is basically now what shows you the importance of pronouns. If it wasn't for pronouns, life would be very confusing. So when I said to you guys, pronouns are very special, this is why. Okay. Number one, repetition of name is not necessary. Yes. So when I said Muhammad is tired, Muhammad's going to go to sleep is not necessary. But even more importantly, look, I'll give it to you as a simple way as possible. Language is an exchange between two parties. Speaking is an exchange between two parties. You have one person who's speaking, and you've got another person who is being spoken to, right? So that's basically what language and speaking is. Okay. Now, the person who's speaking is always called first person, and the person who's being spoken to is called second person. And these two parties, the first and second person, we never mention their name. Why do we not mention their name? Because the purpose of names is to specify something. Okay, we give things names so that we know what you're talking about. Okay, my name is Muhammad, so that you know who I am, Muhammad bin Abdul Wali. Another person's name is Khalid. We give things names so that we can identify them, we can specify them. However, when you're speaking about yourself and you're the first party in the conversation, you don't need to mention the name because it's known who you're talking about. And the person you're speaking to, you don't mention their name because they obviously know that they're part of the conversation. This is what we call first and second person. واضح? And for first and second person, we always use pronouns. We never mention them by name. That's why. That's why. Um, we have verbs and we have personal pronouns. We said that verbs in Arabic are always attached to a pronoun. That's the link between verbs and nouns. First thing we said is a verb has to have someone who did it. And that person who did it is expressed within the verb by way of a pronoun that it points to. It points to a pronoun. Hey, that's the pronoun. This pronoun can either be first person, who's the person that is talking, or it can be the second person, the person who's being spoken to, or it could be someone else. Now, there's someone else, sometimes in Arabic it's called ghaib. In Arabic it's called ghaib. And some people they translate it as absent. No, it's not someone who's absent. He could be sitting right next to us. It's just that he's not part of the conversation. So I'm saying, for example, Khalid, he passed his exam and I'm pointing at him, right? He's right next to us. But the thing is, I'm not talking to Khalid, I'm talking to Ahmed. So the conversation, like we said, conversation is the exchange of words between two people. First person being Muhammad, second person being Ahmed, right? Khalid is not part of the exchange. He is sitting over there. So we refer to him as the third person. Okay? Khalas. So now, hopefully, I hope that you understand what pronouns are all about. And once you understand what pronouns are all about, you will, going forward, understand who the doer of a verb is. Because the doer of the verb, like we said in Arabic, it is always connected to a pronoun. It is always connected to a pronoun. It always points at the pronoun. Okay? It always points at the pronoun. Now, these pronouns are first person, second person, or third person. Now, the first person pronoun, we only have singular and dual, singular and plural. We don't have no dual. That's one thing. And also, the first person, we don't differentiate between masculine and feminine. So that's why the first person, instead of 5 or 6 options, we only have 2. Ana wa nahnu, which is similar to English. That's why the English language only has 7 pronouns, whereas Arabic has 12. Why does Arabic have 12? Because Arabic differentiates between masculine and feminine for the most part, and Arabic also has dual. However, when it comes to first person, Arabic and English are exactly the same. I and us. That's it. I went to school and we went to school. Not us, sorry, we. I went to school and we went to school. أنا and نحن. Okay? أنا and نحن. واضح؟ أنا and نحن. Now, when we go to verb conjugation, as in how to write verbs, you're going to find that أنا, if the verb is أنا, I did it, is going to be different than if the verb is نحن, we did it. Okay? Which is this table basically, which again is the exact same. Subhanallah. I just want you to contemplate on this. This table is past tense verbs, right? This table is personal pronouns. Can you see how they're the exact same? I mean, almost the exact same. There's one slight difference. But for the rest, look, can you see that? 12 and 12. Okay. And then look, this is present tense. You see? Also the same. Okay. So really, the challenge here is this. The challenge is, how do you know which pronoun goes with which verb? That's the challenge. This is basically what verb conjugation is about. This basically 30% of the language. That you know that it is أنا فعلت if it's past tense and أفعل if it's present tense. Okay? And that you know that نحن فعلنا if it's past tense and نفعل if it's present tense. Of course, I'm also going to give you another table, inshallah, that combines all of them together. But this table here is for you to learn each separately, or at least to visualize everything separately. But when it comes to practice, actually, remember last lesson's Tanam tables? That's what you're going to use. Because believe me, if you say, I am going to memorize Ustad and I'm going to learn the past tense verbs conjugation by going over this table, you will never get anywhere. Trust me. Ramadan will come and go before you even know how to do it. Why? Because too many things for your brain to remember in one go. It's 12 different variations. Most differences are very small. There's a lot of overlap, right? It's just not possible for you to memorize it all in one go. That's where the Tanam tables come in, where you practice 6 of them at a time or 5 of them at a time. So each Tanam table deals with one person at a time. First person, second person, third person, past tense. That's how you learn it. When you're done with past tense, you go to present tense. First person, second person, third person. And then later on, inshallah, once you get the hang of it, you can practice all of them and mix and match. Okay? But right now, I want you to see how Arabic language, everything is connected. Okay? Everything is connected. You have these 12 personal pronouns that can all be mapped to a verb. They're connected to every single one of these verbs is pointing to one of those personal pronouns. Now the question is, why is it pointing to a personal pronoun? Let me ask you that on WooClap. Why is it pointing to a personal pronoun? Of course, again, please, I don't want you to look at this table of 12 verbs and be like, oh man, how am I going to memorize this? As a matter of fact, that's one of the biggest critiques that I have of people who teach verb conjugation, is that they try to teach all 12 at the same time. Don't worry. Having the overview is for the sake of understanding. But when it comes to practice, you have to practice in small batches. Now, my question is this: do why is every verb pointing to a pronoun? Question will clap, inshallah. Why is every verb pointing to a pronoun? We said every single verb, doesn't matter which tense it is, which type it is going to be pointing to a pronoun. Why? Now, because someone has to do the action. The doer of the action is the pronoun. Yes. Okay. Ahsantum. Barakallah fikum. Yes, that's very, very true. That's very, very true. Now, there is an exception to that rule. There's an exception to that rule, which we're not going to cover right now. The only exception to that rule is if the verb actually comes before an explicitly mentioned doer. Like I actually mentioned Saeed, I mentioned Fatima, I mentioned the students by that they actually did the verb, and I said the verb first, and then I said these, then okay, then the verb is not going to point at the pronoun. That's the only exception to the rule. Otherwise, if the noun has been mentioned before the verb, then that verb has to point back to that noun by using a pronoun. So, for example, any sentence you come across that starts with a noun and then there's a verb, then that verb is going to have signs to show you which noun it's pointing at. So there's going to be a pronoun hidden within. That's why the 12 pronouns and the 12 verbs, they are like that, each one pointing to another. Okay? You can match them, every single one of them. واضح? Because the verb has to have a fa'il. There's no way around it. And that fa'il, 90% of the time, is conveyed by way of a pronoun. واضح? So if you want to master verb conjugation and get good at it, you have to absolutely know your pronouns so that you can say them in your sleep. Hence the Tanam tables. The Tanam tables. If you don't know what the Tanam tables are, these are small tables that we use to practice pronouns and verb conjugations so that we can end up being someone who can conjugate a verb in their sleep. All right. Type. So here we have the personal pronouns. Then we have the past tense verbs. I'm not going to go through every single one and explain to you this is fa'altu, this is fa'alna, this is fa'altan. There's no need for that. Because like I said to you, it actually needs practice. That's what it needs. Okay. Which you will have on the portal. Um, طيب. So we have the past tense, we have the present tense. Okay. And then we also have a few other things that we're going to mention, inshallah ta'ala, when the time is right. Now, with that, we are done with verbs. Okay, someone said, what do you mean by conjugation? Conjugation is simple. It basically means which verb do you use? How do you, for example, you have those 12 verbs, right? These verbs have been conjugated, as in they consist of a verb and extra letters. These extra letters are the letters that show you which pronoun we're talking about. They're kind of like signs, kind of like an attachment. We attach it to it, right? Imagine you have, let's say, imagine you have, let's even cars. Cars have number plates, right? Why do cars have number plates? To show you who it belongs to, right? Same thing. There are these signs that we add to a verb, letters, to show us which pronoun it's pointing at, so that we know who did the verb. Okay, that's what we call verb conjugation, right? Also, verb conjugation also relates to the fact that past tense verbs need to be different from present tense verbs. Now, verb conjugation to you might sound very, very weird because English doesn't really have it as much as Arabic. Because Arabic, these pronouns, they attach to the verb. Whereas in English, they don't attach to it. They're completely detached. So in English, if you say, for example, he traveled, then he is a separate word. Traveled is a separate word. There's no connection. I traveled. They traveled. They're all separate words. In Arabic, no. In Arabic, you have the verb and the pronoun, they join together. That's why we have so many different forms of a verb, which is one of the most difficult things about Arabic. If I want to be honest with you, it's one of the most difficult things. But inshallah, by way of those Tanam tables that we talked about, it's going to be much easier. Okay? Okay. Now, we're going to get to the most interesting part, which is sentence structure. So how does all of this relate to sentence structure? Okay. Type. How does this relate to sentence structure? Bismillah. So when it comes to sentence structure, we are going to study simple sentences. Now, what do you mean by simple sentences? Well, a simple sentence is a sentence that has the bare minimum. The bare minimum. Okay? It's not a sentence embedded with another sentence joined together. No. Simple sentence, the bare minimum. Now, what's the minimum requirement to make a grammatically correct sentence? What's the minimum requirement to make a grammatically correct sentence? The minimum requirement is that you have two words, okay, which more technically speaking are called musnad and musnad ilayh, okay, and I wouldn't say two words, two parts of a sentence, but for at this level we'll call them mubtada and khabar, right, which is the most basic ones, mubtada and khabar. And mubtada and khabar, basically in English terminology they call it subject and predicate. If you never heard of that, don't worry, I'll explain to you what it means, which basically is this, and it makes sense. Again, if you want to understand language, think about real life. In real life, when you talk, what are you doing? What are you doing? You have a subject, the thing you're talking about, and then you have the khabar, the information on what you said about it. That's basically speech in a nutshell. In a nutshell, speech is like that. You have something you're talking about, and then you said something about it. That's it. Now, the thing you're talking about is called the mubtada. It's the khabar. Sorry, it's called the mubtada. It's the subject, right? And the khabar is the thing you said about it. So every sentence consists of these two parts. Okay? Again, trading simplicity for accuracy. Okay? uh, مبتدا and خبر. واضح؟ ده the minimum. Okay. Now, let's start with the مبتدا. The مبتدا, number one, the first thing I need to tell you about مبتدا is that it's always a noun. And today we're going to tie. We're going to tie what we're learning now to what we've learned last lesson. Last lesson we said all words can either be اسم فعل حرف, a noun, a verb, or a particle. Out of these three categories, a mubtada can only be a noun, which kind of makes sense. Because you can only say something about someone, or something, or an animal, or an idea. Those are things you can talk about. You can't really talk about a particle because a particle is not something that exists in the real world. You can't really talk about a verb because we said a verb can't exist without a doer. We can't say something about the verb itself as a complete sentence. Why? Because the verb needs a subject. A verb cannot exist without a subject. That's why the verb can't be the subject itself. The servant can't take the place of the master. Right? So because a verb always needs a subject, the verb itself can never be the subject. Okay? The person who did the verb is the subject. He is the person. He is the main guy. Now, what did he do? Well, he went to sleep, he went to school, he's teaching, he read Quran, whatever. صح? But who's that person you're talking about? Or who's that thing you're talking about? Even if you say it rained, the sky rained, or the sky is pouring rain. Yeah, the sky is pouring rain. So the sky pouring rain is the verb. Who's doing it? The sky. Okay? So the mubtada can only be a noun. You guys with me so far? Does that make sense? Let me give you guys opportunity to ask a question if you do. I need to do a quick are you with me question. Check up. Are you with me? Don't worry, we're almost done, inshallah. Probably spent too much time on verbs, to be honest. You guys with me? Give me a thumbs up. Type. All right. Yes, Ustad, I'm with you. All right, mumtaz. Okay. So we have a mubtada. So the mubtada, barakallah fikum, and this is now where things get interesting. We said it has to be a noun. And in the very first session, we talked about the main types of nouns. So let's go back and revisit that and connect everything together. Now, this is where things they come together. This is now where you'll be like, oh, it makes sense. Okay. So we have here noun attributes. We said noun attributes. We said the main types of nouns are what? Some of the main types. No, not I mean the categories, the comparisons. We mentioned personal pronouns. We mentioned demonstrative pronouns, right? Okay. Now, that's basically what a mubtada can be. A mubtada, barakallah fikum, this mubtada. It can mainly be one of these four things. Can mainly be one of these four things. Okay? It can either be a personal pronoun. So basically, any sentence can start with a personal pronoun. Remember those 12 personal pronouns we talked about? You can start any sentence with them. You can say ana, you can say anta, you can say huwa, you can say hiya, you can say hum, you can say hunna, you can say antum. You can start your sentence with a personal pronoun. Remember, we said today you're going to learn how to make a sentence, right? Start your sentence with one of these four type of words. All right? You can start your sentence with the personal pronoun, or you can start your sentence with a demonstrative pronoun, which is هذا, هذه, هؤلاء. We've done them. I've sent them to you on the group. You've memorized them. ذلك, تلك, أولئك. You could use those as well. Now, when would you use this and when would you use this? Well, you would use this if you're pointing at it, right? And you would use this one if you're referring to it, as in, I know who you're talking about, right? You've either mentioned them by name before, or if it's first person or second person, right? First or second person. Either you're talking about yourself or the person you're talking to. You say anta or antum, or you talk about yourself ana or nahnu, we, right? So you can use a personal pronoun to start your sentence, or you can use a demonstrative pronoun if you're pointing at it. Okay? Or you can use what we call a definite common noun. Now, when I say common noun, it's because nouns, right, can be one of two things. They can either be a common noun or a proper noun. What's the difference? It's a difference between a flower and Fatima. What's the difference between flower and Fatima? Difference is that a flower, you don't know which flower I'm talking about. It could be any flower. It's a common noun. It's a noun that, like we said in last lesson, applies to a wide range of things in the real world. So when Musa alayhi salam said to his people, "Idbahu baqara," slaughter a cow, that command from Allah to Banu Israel, it applies to any cow that they could have found. So it's something, a common noun is something that is not specific. A proper noun, however, is a specific noun, is somebody's name. So Fatima is someone's specific name. Mecca is a specific city. Riyadh is a specific city. Okay? For example, Allah is Allah's name. Muhammad is a specific name used for a specific person. Now, okay, it could be that you have two people called Muhammad, but then that's why we have the second name. We have Muhammad bin Abdul Wali or Muhammad bin Abdullah, right? And Muhammad bin Khalid. Okay? Well, maybe there's two Muhammad bin Abdullah. So, okay, Muhammad bin Abdullah al Qahtani, Muhammad bin Abdullah, whatever. Uh, Another last name. Muhammad bin Abdullah al Somali, Muhammad bin Abdullah al Britani, Muhammad bin Abdullah al Amriki. So the point is, proper nouns are names given to specific people. Okay? Now, you can start a sentence with any proper noun. Any proper noun, doesn't matter. There's no Khalid, Muhammad, Mecca, Medina. Huh? Anything. But if you want to use a common noun, this is now where things get interesting. You want to use a common noun, then that common noun has to be definite. That common noun has to be what? Definite. Now, when I say this to you, when I say to you a definite common noun, and then I say to you a proper noun, personal pronoun, demonstrative pronoun, what can you extract from that? Let's see who is really, 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 really smart. Let's see who is really, really, really smart. What can you extract from that? Okay, I'm asking you, Wukla. What can you extract from this? Let's see who's awake and who's asleep. Let me tell you again. What can you extract from this categorization, where we said a mubtada can be a proper noun or a personal pronoun or a demonstrative pronoun or a definite common noun. A definite common noun. You can only use a common noun as a mubtada if it's definite. What can you extract from that? It's the subject. Nah. I don't expect anyone to get it right, but I just put it out there just for the sake of it. Bismillah, let's see. Maybe. To use a common noun, you must indicate the red car using definite article. Yes, you do. Yes, that's why I said it has to be a definite common noun. Now that All are nouns. Yes, all are nouns. Definitely. I did tell you before that a mubtada can only be a noun. A verb or a particle can never be mubtada. It has to be referring to a specific thing. No, they are something. No, no. All right, then. Time to tell you guys. Time to tell you guys. We want to know who we are talking to. We want to know who we are talking to. No. What you can extract from this, let me just give one more chance, that the mubtada identifies something with the assumption that is implicitly known. Mu- Proper noun. All right, sorry, I gave you guys enough chance. The answer, barakallah fikum, or the thing that we can extract from this, if you pay attention, all right, and tell me if I'm wrong, right? But from this categorization, we can tell that proper nouns, personal pronouns, and demonstrative pronouns are all definite. واضح? How do we extract that? Because I only made it a condition for definite for common nouns that it's definite. I never placed that condition on these things. Why didn't I? Because they're already definite. That's one thing we can extract. The second thing we can extract, which I think maybe someone has mentioned, is that the mubtada has to be definite. Okay? Now, if it's indefinite, which shouldn't be the case, then that's a different story. That's an exception to the rule. We have a specific procedure for that. Let's put that aside. But generally speaking, the mubtada has to be definite. Why? Because if you're going to tell me something about someone or some kind of subject, if that subject is indefinite, as in, I don't know what you're talking about, it could apply to anything, then that's not very useful, is it? It's not very useful. If I say, for example, a beautiful flower, a beautiful flower, a beautiful flower, which beautiful flower? What about this beautiful flower? If I say, for example, a red car, what about the red car? Did you buy a red car? Did you see a red car? What about the red car? صح? So that's why if it's indefinite, it can't be the mubtada, it can't be the subject because I don't know what you're talking about. You said to me a red car. I said to you, which red car? Which red car? Right? Um, type. So that's what you need to know. Okay, so step one is done. We are halfway through creating a sentence because we have the mubtada. Okay, so right now I want you guys to get a pen and paper, write down an example. Write down 4 words for me, one of each. A definite common noun, write a proper noun, write a personal pronoun, a demonstrative pronoun. Take one of each. Write it on a piece of paper on the side. Okay? I'll do it here as well. You guys come up with something else, all right? I'll create one here. Okay, so let me I'm going to choose one personal pronoun. I'm going to choose هذه. All right? You try and choose something else. Right, let me try and make this big so you can see it. Okay, that's the demonstrative pronoun I chose. Personal pronoun. I'm gonna choose. Let me choose whom. Okay, I don't know about you guys. I'm choosing whom. Okay, which means they. Proper noun. I'm not gonna use Muhammad again. La ilaha illallah. Must have said Muhammad a million times. I'm going to use. Um, I'm gonna use. Give me a name, yallah. Yallah. I'm gonna use Sadiq. MashaAllah, very active guy in the chat. Right? Sadiq. That's a proper noun, somebody's name. Right? Sadiq. You can use whatever you like, huh? And for definite common noun, let's say I'm going to use, you put whatever you like. All right. I'm going to say, how do I feel like? الطعام. Right? Right. So that's what I have. I don't know what you guys have. It's up to you. Yes? However, put it down because it's going to come in handy. Okay? I've got whom, and I've got Sadiq, and I've got at-ta'am. What words do you have? Do you want to write it down now? You want to put it on WooClap? Yalla, put it on WooClap, inshallah. We are halfway through creating a sentence. Why? Because you have your mubtada. صح? You have your mubtada. So let's say what what are your four words? As long as you stick to the rules, huh? One personal pronoun, one demonstrative pronoun, one proper noun, and one common noun. Okay? Write them down if you want. Okay? We're gonna use them. Okay, the sentence we're gonna make, inshallah, is gonna start off with one of these four words. Now, so we're gonna create four sentences today, inshallah. Okay, we started off with the mubtada. We got one of those four words. Again, it depends on what. It depends on. Again, each one of these is used for different reasons, right? If you're actually pointing at something, you use a demonstrative pronoun. If you're talking about someone who we both know who you're talking about, either yourself or you're talking to me, or you're talking about someone we've just mentioned earlier, right? Or maybe you asked me a question. You said to me, Aina Muhammad. I said to you, Huwa fi sayyara. He's in the car. You're using Huwa. Why are you using Huwa? Because you don't want to repeat Muhammad. So you don't repeat a word. Then you would use a personal pronoun. Now, if you want to actually bring someone into the conversation, who I don't know who you're talking about, you'll mention the person by name. Muhammadun fi sayyara. Okay. And a common noun, you would use a definite common noun if you want to talk about something, either an object or an idea, and not a specific person. You're just talking about food, a ta'am, or maybe you're talking about, let's say, an animal. Yes, al-kalbu. Al-kalbu najisun. The dog is impure, right? وهكذا. Okay, so you're mentioning something, not a specific thing. You're mentioning a specific thing because it's definite, but it's not the thing's name. It's more of a description. Al-mudarris. You're talking about a specific teacher, but it's not the teacher's name. It's a description. So common nouns most of the time are descriptions. All right. All right. Try to write it in Arabic, by the way. Okay. هذا هو مدرس طالب. أولئك أنت خالد الكتاب. Okay. Now remember those words. Okay. Now we're gonna go on to the second part of our sentence creation. Are you guys ready? When you do the second part, mashallah, you'll be able to create those four core sentence structures, inshallah. Okay. طيب. The second part, before I show you, right? What I want to tell you is that it is three categories. The second part, i.e., the khabar, can be one of three categories. Who wants to guess what those three categories are related to? Okay. So, what are the three categories? And again, please, I am trading accuracy for simplicity. Okay? If you've done some grammar before, this might not be 100% in line with what you've learned before. Not because what I'm teaching you now is wrong, it's because I'm just using different terms to make things easy. What are the three categories of khabar? No, what are the three categories of khabar related to? Take a guess. Bismillah. What are the three categories of khabar related to? So again, the first part was easy, mubtada. I gave you four different categories, four different types of words you can use as mubtada. Now we're going to go on to the khabar. Now the khabar is of three types. Now those three types of khabar, what do you think they're related to? Some of you said harf, some of you said verbs, some said always to the noun. Ah, there we go, mashallah. Someone here is, mashallah. Someone here is awake. Someone said number, gender, and tense. No, because number, gender, and tense belong to nouns and verbs. But this person here is correct. Ism, fi'l, harf. Remember last week's last lesson? Last lesson was about what? The three categories of speech. Now, it shouldn't come to you as a surprise that the khabar can be of three types. And what defines the type of khabar is what? Naam, you guessed it right. What defines it is the category of speech, the category of speech that the word that the khabar starts with belongs to. واضح? The category of speech that it belongs to. That's why we have three different types of khabar. So if we have three types of speech, اسم فعل حرف, then the khabar can either start with an اسم فعل or حرف. And depending on which one it starts with, we're going to have a different type of sentence. And here we go. This we have. Now, again, I could have asked you this, wallah. I could have asked you this. I could have said to you, okay, a verb gives us two different sentence types. What do you think that's related to? Well, the answer to it is related to what we spend a lot of time on talking about, which is if the verb is either transitive or intransitive, if it either needs an object or it doesn't. If it doesn't need an object, it's going to be a specific sentence structure. If it does need an object, it's going to be a different sentence structure. But in total, barakallah fikum, this is what we have. These are the four core sentence structures of all Arabic sentences. Allahu Akbar. There we go. All right, let's cover them one by one. First one is when you have a noun, which is the mubtada. Mubtada is only going to be a noun, followed by another noun. Followed by another noun. Now, so remember those four nouns that we had that were all mubtada? You can put another noun after it and you'll have a complete sentence. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. Way to go. So whatever word that you had, yes, after it you can put another noun. Let's take the noun mudarris, for example. Right? Now, of course, sometimes it might not make sense linguistically or semantically. The meaning might not make sense if you don't use the right word. So, for example, if one of your words was al-kalb and then you say mudarris, it's mushkila. So, of course, it has to be semantically. In terms of meaning, it needs to make sense. But grammatically speaking, let's talk about grammatically speaking. Even if you were to say al-kalbu mudarrisun, the dog is a teacher. If you were to say that, even though probably in terms of meaning, that doesn't exist in the real world unless you're watching a cartoon, grammatically, that sentence is correct. So I just want you to remember, when we're talking grammar, it doesn't mean that the actual sentence needs to make sense in terms of how we use the words, right? That's a completely different science called semantics. Like, okay, which words can be combined with which words? A dog is an animal. Can a dog be attributed with the act of teaching? No, it doesn't make sense. Dogs can't teach. That's got a bit more to do with logic and thinking and, common sense, right? Unless you're watching cartoon, of course, like I said. But we need to differentiate between those two things, right? Okay, so that's why those four words that you had, if you put after it mudarris, it's grammatically correct. If you say at-ta'amu mudarrisun, no problem. It's correct grammatically. If you say sadiqun mudarrisun, naam, that could be very much in meaning also correct. Sadiq maybe is a teacher. It doesn't matter which Sadiq. I know a teacher called Sadiq. There's a sheikh here in Riyadh called Sadiq, Ustad Sadiq. Naam, Sadiqul Mudarris. And inshallah, our Sadiq, he will also become a Mudarris sometime in the future, inshallah. Hum Mudarris. Oh, here we have a problem now. Hum Mudarris. Hum Mudarris doesn't make sense. Why doesn't it make sense? I mean, sorry, it's not grammatically correct. Language wise, you probably know what I mean. If I say hum mudarris, you know that I'm saying they are a teacher. But grammatically, there's a mistake here. Why is that a mistake? Because of agreement. Agreement. Why do we bother talking about the attributes of a noun? Oh, a noun can be masculine, a noun can be feminine, a noun can be singular, dual, plural. Why do we bother? We bothered because when you combine these words together, they have to agree. So whom, if you look at the table, it is going to belong to the plural. And it's going to belong to masculine. Masculine, plural. So when you want to use a noun with whom, it also has to be masculine, plural. So hum mudarrisun. There has to be agreement. Okay? That's why hum mudarris wouldn't be grammatically correct. So for that reason, if I wanted to make a a grammatically correct sentence by starting with hum, I would say مدرسون, because مدرسون is plural. Okay? And then we have هذه, that's also not correct. Agreement mistake. Why? Because مدرس is masculine, هذه is feminine. Ooh, so I probably, if I wanted to correct this, I would have to do one of two things. Either I stick to هذه and I make it مدرسة, or I stick to مدرس and I make this هذا. Those are the options that I have. Okay? So now, before we go to the next one, I want you to make me a sentence. You can, if you like, technically speaking, you can make me 4 sentences because you chose 4 words, right? But just write me 1 sentence, inshallah. Just give me 1 sentence on WooClap. Let me go to WooClap quickly before you type. Wait up, don't type. Yalla, give me a sentence. Barakallah feek. Give me a sentence, or let's say, um, write a sentence that has a khabar. For now, we're going to call it noun khabar, okay? Let's just call it noun khabar for now. Not really something that exists, but let's call it noun khabar for now. They call it ism mufrad in Arabic. Write a sentence that has a noun khabar. Okay? You've got 4 words to choose from. And then come up with whatever word you can remember from the grammar challenge. The only thing I want from you, barakallahu feek, is that you use words that belong together. Don't write me هذه مدرس, please. Or hum مدرس. I'd rather you write الكلب مدرس, which is grammatically correct, than that you write for me هذه مدرس. Okay? Okay, look, the very first answer is wrong. Barakallahu feek. لا. Barakallahu feek, this is wrong. I said to you, write me a noun khabar. I said to you, just write me the mubtada followed by 1 noun. Why are you writing في المطبخ? Fi is not a noun. Fi is a particle. We didn't get there yet. That's at the end. All right? So now, simple instructions, noun khabar. A noun and a noun. Just make sure that they go together. So someone here said, هم الطلاب. لا, that's wrong. That is wrong. هم الطلاب is wrong. And I'll tell you why it's wrong in a moment. صادق طالب ليس مدرس. Okay. So, again, stick with 2 words, please. صادق طالب. Don't overdo it. We'll get there, inshallah. Walk before you run. صادق طالب. Okay, ممتاز. صادق طالب. صادق is a student. Okay. إليك أولئك مدرسين. مدرسون actually, but okay. Good try. البيت كبير. أحسنت. البيت كبير. ممتاز. Okay, now let's talk why هم الطلاب is wrong. Now you brought us to something really important, which I was almost about to forget. Sorry for you guys, whoever was typing and I kind of interrupted you. I'm sorry about that. But we have to keep moving. Why is هم الطلاب wrong? What's wrong with this? What's wrong with هم الطلاب as a sentence? Okay, what's wrong with that? طلابين. No. Okay, now forget it. I'm not even gonna ask. Let me give you the correct answer right away because it's something I haven't even covered yet. I was about to cover it, but alhamdulillah. Basically, the rule is this. Okay? Again, the rule is this. At least as a starting point. Again, there are exceptions to the rules, but we are always starting with the default. The rule is that barakallahu fikum. This, by the way, means Sa'id is a teacher. That's what it means. Okay? The rule is this. The rule is that the way that we remember the way we said that the mubtada needs to be definite. Likewise, the khabar needs to be indefinite. واضح? Just the way that the mubtada needs to be definite, the khabar needs to be what? Indefinite. So you can't have a definite khabar. You can't have سعيد, for example, المدرس. You can't have that. You can't have سعيد المدرس. It has to be سعيد المدرس. Now, سعيد المدرس, is that wrong as in linguistically is not possible? No, it's possible. But not as a مبتدأ and خبر. So what is سعيد المدرس? We'll talk about that next time. But now what you need to know is that سعيد مدرس, the خبر, has to be indefinite. And this is basically the difference between مبتدأ and خبر, the main difference. I mean, think about it. You have to think, please. Use your brain and use your common sense. If Arabic is a free word order system where you can change the order of words, which I might not have told you before, but that's true. Arabic is not a strict order word system like English. We can change the order of words. If Arabic has a free word order system and you can have a sentence that consists of two nouns, Sa'id and Al-Mudarris, there has to be a difference between the two nouns so that you know which one is the subject and which one is what? The khabar. Because if we had Sa'idun al-Mudarris, if we were to change the order and write al-Mudarris or Sa'idun, which we're entitled to do in Arabic, then the whole meaning would change. It would mean the teacher is happy, as opposed to Sa'id is a teacher. The whole meaning would change. So for that reason, barakallah fikum, remember that the khabar has to be indefinite. Again, this shows you why I spent so much time talking about the three categories of speech, all right, to try and differentiate between them, and why I spend so much time talking about noun attributes. This is definite and this indefinite and blah, and how to recognize it and what have you. Why? Because it makes a major difference. It makes a massive difference when it comes to sentence structure. Because Sa'idun al-Mudarris is completely different. Sa'idun al-Mudarris is an incomplete sentence, whereas Sa'id al-Mudarris is a complete sentence. And the only difference is the fact that Mudarris doesn't have alif lam. واضح? Okay, that's the first one. Next one, we have a mubtada followed by what? A verb. And the third one is a mubtada followed by a particle. You see? Three categories of speech. Now, when a mubtada is followed by a verb, okay, when would you have a mubtada followed by a verb? Simple. If you want to say someone is something, or something is someone, or whatever, right? Which we call in English an equational sentence, this is that, then you would just use nouns. Okay? A noun and a noun. You want to describe someone, you want to describe something, a noun and a noun. Use a noun to describe it. But if you want to talk about something that happened in the past, or is happening now, or is going to happen in the future, you're talking about an event, now you have to use a verb. Okay? So for example, Sa'idun Safara. I'm not describing Sa'id. I'm not telling you that Sa'id is a traveler. Maybe he is an avid traveler. Maybe he travels all the time. But that's not but I'm not talking right now about him being a traveler. I'm talking about he traveled. Could be the first time he traveled in his life, but that's not the point. I want to tell you what he has done. Sa'idun Safara. Sa'idun traveled. So this means what? Sa'id traveled. Okay. Now, this word, this sentence over here, Sa'id traveled, it is what? It only consists of two words. Because that's all we need. Because safara is one of those verbs that we said is intransitive. It's lazim. It does not need an object. Okay, Sa'id traveled is a complete sentence. Okay, now compare that to Sa'idun ghasal al-sayyara. If you guys did the grammar challenge, this sentence sounds very familiar, huh? Trust me, I told you I'm going to stick to it. I am going to stick to it. Sa'id washed the car. Okay, Sa'id washed the car. Here we have a sentence that consists of three words. Why? Huh? Oh no, that's a mistake. Why do you have a sentence here that consists of three words? Because غسل is one of those verbs that needs an object. If you're going to wash, you have to wash something. If you don't wash something, then you didn't really wash. واضح? So Sa'id washed the car. سعيد washed the car. سعيد غسل السيارة. Okay. طيب. سعيد غسل السيارة. سعيد traveled. سعيد washed the car. Now here, Sa'id is the subject. He's the person who did the washing. And the car is the thing that got washed. And the difference in Arabic, you'll notice, is this one has Dhamma and this one has Fatha. That's why we said to you, again, when we talk about noun attributes, we said to you, this is marfu', Dhamma normally means the subject. Fatha normally means the object, the thing that got affected by the verb. Right? سعيد غسل سيارته. واضح? So this is now, if you want to make what? A sentence that has a verb in it. Now is your turn. Now's your turn. Yalla. Just like before, use one of those 4 words that you had earlier. Hum, هذه, whatever you had, and create me a sentence. Now I know this one's going to be slightly more difficult because of verb conjugation, but again, that shows you why the importance is, what the importance is of practicing verb conjugation. So give me a sentence with a verb khabar, as in a sentence that starts where the khabar starts with a verb. Okay? Again, like I said, I don't care what you write. You can say to me if you want, al kalbu tara. You can say to me the dog flew. I don't care if it doesn't make sense, but that's grammatically correct. It's grammatically correct. Okay? So give me whatever you like as long as it's grammatically correct. You give me a subject, you give me a verb. If that verb needs an object, make sure you add it and make sure there is what? Agreement between the subject, the fa'il, and the verb. So the verb needs to have a pronoun, personal pronoun, that is suitable to the noun. Okay, so for example, if you say ana as the mubtada, and then you come with a verb, you have to say ana af'al. Don't say ana yaf'al. He does. It doesn't make sense. Okay? Okay, so this person took my statements. This person took when I said, just give me something that's grammatically correct. MashaAllah, implemented it to the T. He or she said, الطعام طبخ. The food cooked. Well, I was going to say it's wrong. It is actually wrong in Arabic, but I see that you're actually thinking in English. The food cooked, you probably mean it cooked through or something. But in Arabic, الطعام طبخ means the food actually cooked food, right? Food doesn't cook, it gets cooked. So this would actually be الطعام طبخ, but I haven't taught you طبخ yet, which is a passive voice or مبني المجهول. I haven't taught you that yet. So the food cooked. Okay, لا بأس. All right, لا بأس. أنتم تسمعون الأذان. نعم, أحسنت. الأذان is the object, is the thing we hear. أنتم, we are the ones that are hearing. أيوة. خالد كتب كتاب. لا, this is wrong. خالد كتب كتابا. كتابا, it's an object. Is kitab the one that wrote? Kitab wrote Khalid? No. So don't give a dhamma to kitab because it means that the kitab is the one that did the writing. الطالب ذهب إلى البيت. Okay, even though we didn't cover إلى البيت yet, we didn't do that, but all right, لا بأس. هو شرب. Okay. الكلب يقفز. The dog is jumping. أحسنت. أكل فواز. لا, this is wrong. According to what we studied, this is wrong. Because I said you need to start with a noun, start with a subject, mubtada, and then give me a khabar. Instead, what you did is you started with the verb and then gave me the fa'il. No, we haven't done that yet. We haven't done that yet. Okay, so this would be fawazun akal, not akala fawaz. Fawazun akal. Fawaz ate. Hum dhahabu. Okay, mashallah. You guys done a lot better than I had expected, mashallah, tabarakallah. Sorry, I wasn't sharing the WooClap screen, but it's all right. At least you heard. If you want to see it, labas, this is what I was talking about. هم نام مسجد. هو نام مسجد. لا. Doesn't make sense. He slept masjid. How? يعني نام, the act of sleeping, did it affect masjid? No, it didn't. As a matter of fact, the word nama, to sleep, it's a fi'l lazim. It's one of those verbs that doesn't need an object. So huwa nama would be a complete sentence. Now, if you want to say that he slept in the masjid, then you have to say fil masjid. You have to use more words, fil masjid. But you can't make it a direct object of nama. It's not مفعول bihi of nama. Okay? Someone said Sa'idun daraba. Yeah, Sheikh. Mistake. Wrong. Why is it wrong? Because we already said, is actually the example that we gave, that daraba needs an object. Sa'id can't just hit. He has to hit something. What did he hit? I don't know who he hit. I want to know. Who's this person? Who's this miskin? Who's this victim? Who is this person that I want to, console? Who did he hit? He didn't tell me. Allah yadik. Right. All right. Um, let's go to the final sentence structure, which is when we have a sentence that we have a noun followed by a particle. Now, this particle, it can't be any particle. It needs to be a prepositional particle, as in a particle that tells us where something is. Okay, such as fi, in. Okay, so this we call a preposition. All right, and this would be the object of that preposition. Prepositional object. In Arabic, it's called ism majroor. Okay, don't be intimidated by the English words. In Arabic, it's called ism majroor. In other words, it's the word that comes after the preposition. And these two things, by the way, the preposition, this particle, and the word that comes after it, you can consider it to be like one word. They cannot be separated. They are absolutely 100% inseparable. You can't do it. That's why it's called jar majroor. This one drags this one along wherever they go. Jar means to drag something. Okay, so these two things, they are considered as if they are one word. You can't separate them ever. Okay, so Sa'idun fil bayt. Sa'id is in the house. Sa'id is in the house. Now, this obviously different from noun and noun. Sa'id is a teacher is different from Sa'id is in the house. واضح? Because this is followed by a preposition, followed by a particle, not followed by a noun. So now, this kind of sentence, by the way, this kind of sentence, it will always give us the meaning of something being inside of something else in terms of time or place. We can also use in terms of time. For example, I can say al-ikhtibaru fi Ramadan. I can say that, for example. The exam is in Ramadan. So here the in doesn't mean a place, it means time. So it doesn't matter if the preposition is talking about time or it's talking about a location. As long as you place that subject within a place of time or location. That's what we now call a prepositional phrase, which is one of the types of khabar. Okay, one of the main types of khabar. This, my dear brothers and sisters, or these four sentence types, these are what we call the core sentence structures. Okay, and every single sentence, like we said, it can be returned to one of these. Okay, now, of course, it takes a little bit of practice before you can do that, but trust me, you can. I dare you. Give me any verse in the Quran right now, I'll return it to one of these four core sentences. Give me any verse in the Quran. Of course, it's going to involve extracting it. Like, we're going to exclude certain extra words and stuff, and I'm going to tell you this is the core sentence. And then this has been added to add this meaning. This word has been brought forward, its place has been changed for this reason. So this is what we call transformations. These are the things that have happened to a core sentence in order to expand the meaning, add new meaning, right? But in essence, the actual sentence itself, it can be returned to one of these four. And if you wanted to, you could generate all the Arabic sentences starting off from these four as a starting point. And I'm going to show you something now to show you how powerful this is. Of course, mashallah, all of you have already made a lot of different sentences, mashallah, tabarakallah, by using the four different words that we had as mubtada. Okay, now you can just imagine what the possibilities are there. Let's just talk about the mubtada. Before we even talk about the khabar, what you can say about a mubtada, let's just look at the possibilities when it comes to the mubtada. Okay, we have demonstrative pronouns. In total, we have 12. 12. Okay, so that's basically 12 words you can start with times whatever number of words that are in the dictionary. That's how many sentences you can make. Anything, Hadi. Right now, the room that you're in right now, just with those demonstrative pronouns, you can probably make 50 sentences by pointing at anything in the room. هذا قلم. هذا كتاب. هذه سماعة. هذا لاقط. هذه نظارات. هذا جوال. وهكذا. I can continue all day. صح ولا لا? So you can use any demonstrative pronoun, point at it, and whatever. Okay, personal pronouns. Well, it depends. Imagine I've got people sitting here. I can say to you, هو. Or you can ask me about anything. Say to me, أين خالد? I say to you, هو في البيت. Alright? So again, هم, هو, أنا, أنت. I can talk about أنا. I can talk about أنت. I can talk about أنتم. أنتم نعم الطلاب. You guys are the best students. أنتم نعم الطلاب. ها؟ وأنت أنت طالب مجتهد. وأنت طالبة مجتهدة. You see, I had to change it a little bit. أنت masculine. طالب مجتهد. There's no time مربوط at the end. أنت طالبة مجتهدة. Agreement, you see? Then we have proper nouns. Well, how many of you are online right now? Every single one of you, we've got 41 now. I think we started with about 70 or 80. Hope we didn't lose them for for reasons that have to do with the grammar. But yeah, 41 of you, every single one of you has a name. Yeah, I can start a sentence with that. I can say Sadiq, I can say Fatima, I can say whatever the name is, right? And I can say anything about it. I can say Sadiq Mujtahid, I can say Fatima tu Ghaibatun, Fatima is absent, I can say Ahmed Daki, Ahmed is smart, I can say whatever. Then we have the common nouns. Ooh, now we open up the dictionary. Now we literally opened up the dictionary. The common nouns really goes back to what your dictionary, what your vocabulary bank is. If your vocabulary bank is 200 words strong, mashallah, you can start with 200 mubtadas. And those 200 mubtadas, by the way, are each going to have 6 different forms. It could be singular, it could be dual, it could be plural, it could be masculine, feminine. Okay, so let's say you learn the word Muslim, right? Okay, you have Muslim, Muslimah, Muslimani, Muslimatani, Muslimun, and Muslimat. You have those 6 forms. Okay, you can use any of them. So, mashallah, for those of you that have done the vocabulary challenge, the lowest ones, the lowest level, I think you learn 200 words. Those 200 words, how many of them are common nouns? Million. You can use any of those to start off your sentence. Now, we didn't even get to the second part. We didn't even get to the part where we actually say something about the mubtada, right? Because if you go to that part, then you have whatever words you had so far, use them as khabar, as a noun khabar. Alhamdulillah. So you can have, for example, Sadiq. Sadiq, even though it's a proper noun, it can be used as a proper noun, as in somebody's name. It also can be used as a common noun, because Sadiq means someone who's truthful. Prophet ﷺ was called As-Sadiq al-Amin, was one of his nicknames, the truthful one and the trustworthy one. So I can actually say, Sadiqun Sadiq. That's a sentence. Sadiqun Sadiq. Sadiq is truthful. وهو كذلك إن شاء الله. صادق صادق. Huh? صح ولا لا? Okay, I can say هو صادق. He is truthful. I can say هؤلاء, they صادقون, are truthful ones. هذه صادقة. This woman, she's truthful. هي صادقة, she's truthful. My dear brothers and sisters, the combinations are too much. They're too much. Okay? And we're just getting started. These are, barakallahu feekum, the 4 core sentences. I promise you, if you stop trying to run before you can walk, if you calm down, Stick with these four core sentences that I've given you and just use them to perfect what you have so far. The 200 tiny words you've learned so far from the vocabulary dictionary, vocabulary challenge, with these four core sentences, you can make thousands of sentences, thousands. And not just any sentence, you can make thousands of grammatically correct sentences. All you need to do is you need to practice. That's it. So that you end up using the correct word as the mubtada and you use the correct word that goes with it. Masculine and masculine, singular and singular together. Okay? However, I mean, what do you want to say to you? يعني, okay, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you the words from the vocabulary challenge. I'm going to choose one of the days that we've done. Yalla, we've done 8 days. We had 8 different themes. Do you guys want to choose a specific one? Bismillah, tell me. So let's use the Islam one. Okay? Let's use the Islam one. Okay? Let's see what sentences you can make. Okay? Okay, so this is the vocabulary challenge. We use this. This is level 3. Okay? If you guys want to use a lower level, you want to go to level 1, we can go to level 1. Labas. Let's go to definitions for level 1. Okay? This is what we did. Not many. Probably 20 words or so. Right? Some verbs, some concepts, some times, and some particles. Okay? Or we can go to level 2, for example, where we had some things as well, right? And some places. Okay? And level 3, we had also some persons as well. Okay? Let's use level 3 because it gives us a wider scope. Now, in terms of mubtada, what can you use for mubtada? Well, you can use any person, okay, because they're nouns. Anything you want to talk about. Any action, because, sorry, not action, these are verbs. Any concepts. Concepts are basically, they're not things you can touch or feel, but they are things, they are nouns. So, for example, we have qira'a, reading. Okay? You can say, for example, al-qira'atu sa'batun. Reading is difficult. See, it's a noun, عادي. It can be a mubtada, no problem. Even though there's a strong connection between qira'a, reading, and the verb reading, to read, there's a strong connection there. Okay? However, there's a big difference. This one, qara'a gives you a tense. Yaqra'u gives you a tense. He's reading now, qara'a, he read. But qira'a doesn't give you a tense. That's why it's not a verb. But it gives you the meaning of the action, which is the act of reading, but without a tense. This shows you the difference between a noun and a verb. Okay? قرأ يقرأ قراءة. And this is actually called the verbal noun. These two are very much related. These are the verbs and this is the verbal noun. It is the noun taken from the verb, basically. So you can say, for example, القراءة صعبة. Reading is difficult. Look, you made a sentence. صح ولا لا؟ الوضوء, making wudu, سهل, is easy. الصلاة نور, that's a hadith. Salah, prayer, نور is light. الصيام جنة, fasting is a protection, it's a shield. That's a hadith. الصيام جنة. Okay. الحج, الحج. Okay. This one, let's not use a noun. Let's use a prepositional phrase. الحج إلى بيت الله. Hajj, to the house of Allah. الحج إلى البيت. الحج إلى البيت. Hajj, to the house. When we say to the house, we mean the house of Allah, of course. الحج إلى البيت. How you made a sentence? By using a prepositional phrase. الحج إلى. إلى means to. البيت. Okay. Okay. How about we use these things with verbs? All right. Let's say we can't really use concepts with verbs. Concepts don't normally do verbs. So let's go to persons. Let's go to persons. Okay. مؤذن. Hajj. Oh, what does Hajj do? Pilgrim. الحاج يحج. The Hajj is making Hajj. الحاج يحج. The Hajj is making Hajj. المصلي, the person who prays. المصلي, what does he do? يصلي, he prays. What does he pray? صلاة, a prayer. المصلي يصلي صلاة. The prayer, the one who prays or the praying person is praying a prayer. I know it doesn't make much sense, but I'm just showing you, right, what the possibilities are. You can say الذاكر, the one who remembers Allah. What does he do? يقرأ, he reads. What does he read? Al-Quran, he reads the Quran. Okay? وهكذا. Ramadan, we have Ramadan as a time. صح ولا لا? We have شهر, we have Maghrib, we have Ramadan, we have أسبوع. Okay, so you can use ila or fi, for example. These are times. صح? Let's say something. What's happening in the week? What's happening in the week? الحج في في الوقت في الأسبوع is in the week, is once a week. لا. الحج في العام is in the year, once a year. في العام مرة واحدة. Okay. على أي حال. Oh, 1 minute. Please tell me you see my screen. Oh, yeah. Alhamdulillah. I thought you went for a moment there. Point I'm trying to make, my dear brothers and sisters, just with this small table in which we have categorized everything. Again, now it makes sense why we categorized everything. I told you guys when we were doing the vocabulary challenge, I said to you, it will make sense why we made these categories when we get there. Now you see why. Because a person normally is the one who does the action. So you can use any person and then have a fi'l after it. You got a complete sentence. As long as that fi'l doesn't need an object. If it needs an object, then look in the column called things and you'll probably find something that's suitable. So let's say inside things we had Quran, we had let's say ta'am. Yes, these would be the things you would eat or you would read. Sah? So you have a person, he does an action that which normally affects something. Of course, someone can do an action that affects another person as well. So you can say, for example, Khalid daraba Zayd, of course. Uh, then we have concepts. Again, concepts, you can describe them as well. Uh, these two, time and place. Time and place. Time and place are the things, the words we would use in a prepositional phrase. You know, the prepositional phrase, the phrase where you say where something is or when something is, that's when you would use a word from one of these two columns. على أي حال بارك الله فيك. I'm going to suffice with this, right? Because I can go on and on and on and on and on. But the point is this, right? You have 4 core sentence structures. MashaAllah, you have a sizable vocabulary bank. If you truly want to master this language, what you need to do is get creative, right? Use those words from the vocabulary challenge. Use these core sentence structures and just try and create as many sentences as possible while sticking to the core sentence structure that you have. Once you master that, then say to me, Ustad, I've done this, Alhamdulillah, what's the next step? Of course, there is another next step, by the way. We still have another lecture to go. Tomorrow, I'm going to show you how you can completely blow up and expand even more what we have so far. So far, Alhamdulillah, we have a lot, but how can you even expand it even more? We'll talk about that next lesson. Not tomorrow. Did I say tomorrow? Next session, we'll talk about that, inshallah ta'ala. But the point is this. If you've learned Arabic before and you struggled before, it's probably because you tried to run before you could walk. Okay? Calm down. One step at a time. If this is the first time you're learning the Arabic language, Alhamdulillah, I want you to tell me, what do you think so far? You've only done 2 sessions with me. Maybe these are the first 2 sessions you've done in your life when it comes to Arabic. I want you to tell me, what are your thoughts? Does it look like it's something easy that's manageable? Do you feel like, mashallah, I can do this? My computer is stuck. What happened? Can you hear me? Ooh. All right. So I was going to say, share your thoughts, please. I mean, again, like I said, it's a big struggle trying to teach you guys online. I can't see your facial expressions. You know, if you're finding it difficult or not, if you are finding it interesting or not, tell me. What do you think? If you are a total beginner, talk to me. Say to me, I'm a total beginner, but I feel like this is very manageable. You know, I can't believe that after 2 sessions, I already have a path towards creating sentences. if you've learned grammar before, and 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 you think that if you learned grammar before and you feel like that you actually were guilty of trying to run before you could walk, and you were getting stuck into the fathas and the dhammas and the marfu'us and the mansubs and the majroors without actually reading, connecting it to real life sentences, and your teacher never really encouraged you to build sentences or showed you how to do it. He just threw sentences at you. Tell me what your experience is regarding that. Um, so let me know, inshallah. Okay. I mean, again, people are of different levels of understanding. All right. And I have to be honest with you. If you have understood 20% as part of the explanation, sorry, whatever you've understood as part of the explanation that we've done today, it's 20%. The other 80% is where you start practicing. So believe me, if you say to me, Ustad, I'm kind of there, I'm not really there, I don't blame you because it needs practice. Nah, like someone said here, interesting, but it will require practice from me. Nah, it requires practice from everyone. That's what we have for you, inshallah. The practice is ready. We're continuing to create practice sessions for you, inshallah. It will come along. But I promise you this, everything that I've taught you, everything I've told you, I guarantee that I will give you some form of practicing it. I'll make sure it's not left to just being theory. Okay? Start you explain everything from first principles. People know the difference between he, she, and this and that already. Um, yeah, maybe they do, maybe they don't. you know, again, it's something relative, isn't it? Um, I've learned some grammar before in a grammar book and learned a lot of rules and I practiced, but hearing it from a leading voice now makes it a lot more comfortable. Alhamdulillah, life changing. Two lessons, as crazy as that sounds. It does sound crazy. Alhamdulillah. طيب, okay. على أي حال, um, regarding the points we're going to mention, I think we're done. Tomorrow, in the next lesson, we're going to talk about core versus detail. As in, we're going to try and answer that question, which probably is ringing in your mind right now, which is, Ustad, sentences are longer than this. Jazakallah khair for sharing these four core sentence structures with us. But the sentences we find that we see are longer than this. What are those extra words if they're not part of the core? That's what we're going to talk about, inshallah ta'ala, next session. I did say exercise idea. We're going to create sentences, which I believe we already done. Okay, I think we already done. Um, someone said here, beginner. So the first day I was so excited and felt it's finally able to do. Then I went to the portal and had a meltdown. okay, you know, whatever the portal you find it to be difficult, let me know. Again, all the exercises are not there yet. We're working towards it. We're working towards it. So, and I do believe I agree with you that probably what we've released on the portal yesterday, we probably released it prematurely, as in, um, we released it before actually explaining the conjugations, which I think today we've done, alhamdulillah. After this session, I'm ready to go back and do it. I need to get out of my own way. Yes, definitely. I wouldn't even say after this session. Do it after I send you the notes. When I refine the notes tomorrow, you're going to have these tables. And by the way, let me tell you this, please. Let me tell you this. When you're doing the exercises on the portal, I give you 100% permission to cheat. Right? Barakallah fikum. Let me repeat. When you're on the portal and you're practicing your demonstrative pronouns and your conjugations and everything, and you're doing the practice, if you get stuck, I give you 100% permission to cheat on the practice. Assignment, no. Because that's why I've practiced an assignment. Assignment, only attempt it when you're ready. Assignment, you're not allowed to cheat. But the practice, you're absolutely allowed to cheat. It's not even cheating, really. It's just getting a bit of help, right? Because it's for the sake of practice. You can sometimes click on the hint and it will give you the English translations in case you don't know the meaning of the words and you feel like the meanings would clear things up for you. La bas. But even after knowing the meanings, if you're still stuck, use these tables that I'm going to give you and just look at it. Look for the word, find it, and then answer it. La bas. I give you permission to do so. Okay, why? Because it's all about practice. The whole purpose is that you put yourself on the spot. You try to answer if you can. If you can't answer it, find the answer and keep on moving. No problem. Okay? Alhamdulillah. I'm told to begin with no vocabulary memorize. Should I go back memorizing vocabulary first? It would be good to memorize some vocabulary. I mean, if you're part of the Arabic grammar challenge, I've shared some vocabulary, like the personal pronouns and demonstrative pronouns in the group when I started teaching. And you don't have to, I'm not going to say to you, you have to memorize vocabulary before you can start doing this, because we give the meaning in the hint. That's the reason why we give it, because people, they might know the word meaning, maybe they don't. And we want to be sure that grammar practice is focusing on grammar, not vocabulary. That's why we give you the English meanings in the hint. You click on the hint, you'll see it. But again, yes, it is important that you memorize some vocabulary. So as you go along, try and memorize some vocabulary as well, inshallah ta'ala. Okay? Such an awesome way of teaching, coupled with the experience and the know-how of such teaching. Will the challenge for sure end this Friday, and will we have to complete all exercise tests by then? Well, the explanations, the lectures will finish by Friday, but you'll have whatever time you need to attempt the exercises and practice and do the test, inshallah. I'm not gonna put a test deadline anytime soon. I know that some of you need more time, so don't worry about that. But it's just that I'm delivering the lectures and the explanations over the course of 3 days, and then you have whatever time you need to practice, inshallah. طيب. Someone said without the harakats, it's a bit more challenging. I normally add the harakats to everything. Um, Tell me where you didn't find the harakat. Maybe in the no, as far as I know, I normally add the harakat. Now, if you want to say that no, Ustad, without the harakat, as in real world, I'm going to read books with no harakat, is a bit more challenging. Don't worry, you'll get there. Trust me, it's not that difficult. Okay, it's just that you need to get the basics, inshallah. طيب حياكم الله بارك الله فيكم. Inshallah will suffice with that. هذا والله أعلم. صلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد. بارك الله فيكم. Don't forget again to like, subscribe, and comment. Share your takeaways, inshallah. What resonated with you? What was the best point? What's the thing that, really got you interested? Share that, inshallah, so that other people can benefit from that as well in the comments, and spread in the and help and aid in the spread of the khair, inshallah ta'ala. Support whichever way you can, inshallah. Um, there's links to support the program, inshallah, in the description. And with Allah al-Kareem, I will see you guys in the next session, which should be on Thursday, but there is a big possibility it might be postponed. There's a big possibility it might be postponed because Sheikh Sulaiman al-Ruhaili is in town. He's going to be here on Thursday. He's going to do a lecture at the Mufti's Masjid. So I'm going to attend that lecture, inshallah. Plus, tomorrow I have a dentist appointment. Plus, there's another sheikh from Jordan who's come over as well. I got invited to a like a sitting or a get together with that sheikh. So it's very busy 2 days for me. And as much as I want to benefit you guys and, you know, contribute as much as I can, there are a few things that we can't sacrifice on. So when you have major scholars of the caliber of Sheikh Salman Ruhaili, for example, coming to Riyadh teaching down the road, I love you guys, but not more than the knowledge and the benefit that we need ourselves. So I will confirm, inshallah, in the groups if I can teach on Thursday. If I can't, then we will reschedule it for Saturday, bismillah al-kareem. Even though Sheikh Subhan Rahili's got a lecture on Saturday as well, he's teaching usul al-fiqh, inshallah. It's like a seminar, like 3 lectures after each other on usul al-fiqh. However, that's going to start around 4 p.m. So we might do Saturday earlier. We might do a session, inshallah, maybe 2 p.m. Mecca time or 1 p.m. Mecca time, which will be like 10 a.m. UK time, but on a Saturday, which is the weekend. So I think you should manage for those joining from the UK. If you're joining from maybe North America, it might be a bit difficult for you. We'll see. Either way, we'll see, inshallah. Maybe I can do it after the lecture. It would be a bit late as well. But we're going to reschedule it, inshallah. If not Thursday, it's going to be on Saturday. طيب. بارك الله فيكم. حياكم الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.